Hey, what's going on, guys? Kieran from Fingers Crossed, and today got my guy Kyle from our local OTS store. He has agreed to do a deck profile for us, and it's going to be Plunder Patrols. Now, it was a deck that I didn't really think was amazing. I didn't think it was going to be very good, but actually it can do a lot more than what I thought. So I asked him if he'll do the deck profile for us, so I can put it on the channel so you guys can see how cool and how good these guys are, how good the Plunder Patrol cards actually are. And yeah, so just quickly though, just before we get into the deck profile, so I just wanted to, like, some exciting news. So as you can see, I've actually been painting inside this room because I'm going to be setting up a nice little studio so that I can bring higher quality videos to you guys. So that, like, always looking to improve, always looking to better and be better than before. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the content that I make, and hopefully the steps that I'm about to take, you guys will approve and enjoy. But without further ado, let's get into the deck profile and let Carl present it to you.
Free white bid.
You
pretty much want to max out on all plunder cards, on all plunder monsters, because if you don't have them, your extra deck effects won't go off. Yeah, I do it that way around. These ones, when they're on the field, they can tag out into a attribute that your opponent controls or is in their grave. So it's good to go into the ones which I'll show a bit later. When it's sent from hand or monster zone to the graveyard, it can special summon another plunder from the deck, but it locks you into plunders. But it's a good way of recurring resources. Free Redbeard, it does the same thing on the field as Whitebeard, lets you tag out, and it's really good for, both of these are really good for avoiding targeting effects. So if anyone imperms or uses any effect that targets, you can just chain these on top and avoid the target completely. You then run free Bluebeard, which is an extender in the deck. If you control any plunder card or any plunder monster, you can activate in hand to special summon itself. And then when it leaves from the field or hand, you can discard one card and draw one card. This is good with combos with Whitebeard, because you can go into any level 8 synchros or any link 2s or any rank 4.
Yeah, I feel like there's an underhanded compliment in there, isn't it?
You've got free. Sorry, mate, if I put these all back together for you. Free golden hair. This is a normal summon that you can link off into Amraj, discard a card from hand to special it back out and go into Blackbeard. Or you can also combine it with this to go into any of your rank 4s, synchro 8s, or link 2s. That's all of the plunder monsters. Free Silent Angler. So this is just literally just an extender in hand that you can special summon if you control any water monster. It's good to go into your, again, synchro 8s or link 2s or rank 4s. Stuff like Bahamut Shark, or if you're going second, White Aura Whale.
Might be having a housewarming party, so we get people down and set might get drunk the night before, come in and then play.
Then we got the hand trap lineup, which is
we'll be here
free Ash,
and responsible. Matt, let's go off course and see.
Free Ogre.
I have never been responsible in my life. I do not.
And triple gamma and a driver. These are in here purely because they can protect your spell starters when you're going first or second. Just to bait out a negate and then drop this, or to play through hand traps, because you really don't want to play called by, because you need your opponent's cards engraved to use their attributes. So if you have called by and you banish their Ash or their Ghost Ogre or something like that, you then don't get to go into those attributes with your plunder monsters. These are really good because your plunders will cycle through the deck basically every turn, and your link 2, which is Blackbeard, also should be drawing a card every turn. So in theory, if you're cycling through your plunders really quickly, you're going to be drawing into these type of hand traps, which you want to be able to use almost immediately to have extra negations that your opponent doesn't know.
It doesn't play for any hand traps, but it's just Jet at least gets you to, like,
and on for the spells.
You have to use the
You run
if you open any
3 of the field spell and 1 terraforming. The field spell can discard any card to add any plunder card except itself, and that's a hard once per turn. It has another effect that when it is in grave, it can bounce back a plunder spell or trap you control, which includes all of the monsters that are currently as equipped, to hand to reset itself. This is a great way of repairing resources against the grindier decks.
I had no returns, Cherubini, you can now just, make Harold Dragoon.
I run 2 emblem. Some people run 3 of every single plunder card. I choose not to, purely because these can be a bit bricky if you don't have the plunder monsters in hand, and they are only really very good going first. They don't really do a lot going second. They don't bait negates, they don't really force anything. But they're very good against control decks that need to target, because they stop your opponent targeting your monsters, and they're great to go into list turn 1 with something like a Link 2 that's light, or a Synchro 8 that's light.
Or red eyes. Yeah. Do stuff with it. Oh no, where'd you put it?
I also run 2 Shipshape shipping. So this could be run at 3. I choose not to, because it really requires you to have 2 plunder monsters in hand to actually use both of its effects. Its first effect of fusion summoning is still very good, because it can summon out a negate, so it pretty much baits any negate if your opponent knows what they're playing against. And then when it's in grave, you can banish it to target a plunder monster you control and equip an emblem, which is this, or any plunder monster from your deck to the card, which then works well with the field spell in grave, because then you can just bounce whatever you've equipped from deck with this, bounce it back to hand with this, and then basically normal summon it. So it's a way of summoning any monster, searching any monster in the deck, but it can also just equip this, so you can go into any direction deck monsters.
That's cool.
Then in terms of consistency, 3 desires. You don't really mind banishing stuff in the deck too much, as long as you don't banish 3 of either the field spell or the trap that I'll show you in a second.
Are they all ulties as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you do banish them, it's still not the worst, because you can run Cyframe Omega in this deck, which can get you back at least 1 copy of the field spell if you banish 3. And if you do get the field spell back engraved with Omega, that's helpful anyway, because you want it engraved to be able to bounce back a plunder spell or trap and reset itself.
Yeah.
So sometimes actually banishing this is a way of searching the field spell, or banishing it with this, sorry. Run 1 of Salvage. This is really weird, not something I normally do, but I was running Phantasmes for the event before this, and chose not to run it for this purely because there wasn't many combo decks in the room. So I just wanted a card that just gets me more cards in hand, gets me a bit more advantage than I would normally have, and this seemed to fit the bill. I think it's better than Upstart when I'm going second, at least, because I'd rather draw hand traps or do something that's definitely going to bait a negate, and I feel like this will bait a negate if I've already got 2 water monsters in the grave, whereas Upstart doesn't really do much for that. Final 3 cards of the deck in a 40 card deck is Plunder Patrol Booty. This card is insane. It is a monster reborn every turn. It's almost a negate by itself. It targets a monster your opponent controls, changes its attribute, which can be quite useful for just people when they're link climbing, or when they need to use certain effects that require attributes. Like, I think a good one that come up was I chained it to Omni Dragon Brotor the other day, and they weren't able to search with it anymore. But when this resolves, it then special summons or shuffles back in a plunder monster that's already been properly special summoned from the grave. So this being a special summon each turn is ridiculous. If they don't deal with this card, it should be game over. Onto the extra deck. Yeah. Pretty standard extra deck. 3 Blackbeard. You can get away with running 2 of this, but I wouldn't. This card, quick effect, can target any plunder monster you control, including itself, to tag out into an attribute your opponent controls or is in their grave, and then draw 1 card. So it's important, the draw is really important in this deck, because it lets you, if you can target another monster each time, you can just keep drawing 1 card every turn, your turn and your opponent's turn. So it helps you keep up advantage and keep up with the engines of other control decks, and even put out negates in front of combo decks. I then run 2 of each ship.
One of them's here, probably.
I'll go through Liss first. Liss is obviously a light ship. That is a monster negate. it discards a Plunder card to negate a monster effect and destroy it, and if it's equipped with a Plunder monster, it can then add any Plunder card. The best thing about this is that if you were summoning it with this, and this goes into the equip, or whatever monster goes into the equip, you can use this to also special summon it out back from the spell and trap zone to keep using this as much as you can. This is a hard once per turn, but if you can just keep getting this out each turn, you can keep using this and then keep using this to bring it back out, and it's just a nice little loop to keep drawing a card and keep field advantage up. As for these two, they both do basically the same thing. While they're equipped with a Plunder card, they're a quick effect, but this one banishes a effect monster your opponent controls. This one banishes a spell and trap. Both of them do the same by discarding a Plunder card, and then when they resolve, or if they resolve, this one adds a Plunder monster to hand, and this one adds a Plunder spell and trap. So this is what I mean, you get to recycle or cycle through your Plunder cards really quickly, which then means the draws of cards like this are really good for getting into hand traps. So you've got extra negations that your opponent doesn't really know about. Everything else in the extra deck is effectively a flex spot, except Amraj. This one doesn't have much use except when you draw Golden Air. So just to make sure that you get to go into Blackbeard, turn 1, if you don't draw a very good hand, you can just normal summon this, link into Amraj, use this as effect to discard any card to special summon itself, and then link 2 into this. And it's that simple. You don't, with this deck you don't need to end on a lot. Ending on Blackbeard by itself and maybe one set can suddenly turn into 3 or 4 negates without your opponent realising. I then run Omega, YuGiOh Whale, and Dragonite. So Dragonite is a spell and trap negate, which is kind of important with this deck if you draw a good enough hand going first, because Blackbeard can lose to a shotgun impact. This is also nice if you run Nibiru in the deck, in the main or in the side, you can use it to clear cards. There's like, I'd say around a 30 to 40% chance of hitting a Nibiru with this. If you've got like 35 cards left in deck. So this going second into a board still has a pretty good chance of shuffling some cards back, and it's a good way of outing cards like Tikaboo and other Gozo matches as well. This card is a bit broken going into combo boards if they leave their monsters in attack, because when it's summoned with, let's say for example, a Whitebeard and a Silent Angler, you can simply normal summon special Silent Angler, synchro straight into this, and go chain YuGiOh Whale effect 1 to destroy all face-up attack monsters on their field, chain 2 Whitebeard to special from deck. So they can't really negate this, and it's a great way of just getting rid of a whole board. And then if they've got something like a what's it called? A Herald or something like that, you can just attack over it and do piercing damage, and it can attack monsters, or up to 2 monsters on the field. And then when it's destroyed, it can banish a water monster from the grave to re-summon itself. So it just keeps coming back and back. It's quite a hard card to deal with. Omega is good for going first. Again, if you draw like these two, you can just go straight into Omega, summon another monster out with Whitebeard, and then if you've got any access to this, then you can use this on the monster that you summon with Whitebeard to make this turn 1, and then use this in their turn, or you can use it on your turn, but you can use this in their turn to banish one of the 6 cards from their opening hand. The other thing I like about this is if you use Psyframe Gamma, when your opponent, let's say, ashes your field spell, or ogres a field spell, or tries to ash desires, if you don't banish Driver, you get to summon this out for free, and it just takes a card out of their hand. It gives you lights in the grave, and like I say, if you banish good cards with your desires, it also gives you a way of shuffling them back, or putting them back into grave, which in this deck is great. The last 2 spots in the deck, again flex spots, you can kind of run whatever you want here, but I've gone for Bahamut and Totally. Again, just getting a negate's really nice. Pretty much everything in the deck is a level 4 water, and a lot of hands, especially with this, if you go into Bahamut, you can bait out something like an Imperm or an Effect Veiler, so they stop you getting into this, and then you still summon this out, use those 2 to go into Blackbeard.
a rank 6 and a rank 4 or something.
Can I find it? Because
Yeah.
Blackbeard can be quite prone to being impermed on your turn or on their turn before they have anything in the grave. So it's nice to bait it out with this first and hope they don't have 2 of them, I suppose. And then totally kind of speaks for itself. It's a negate, but it's also nice that when it is destroyed or when it does send itself, you can shuffle back any water monster, or add any water monster back from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a great way of getting plunder cards back in hand to use them as discards for your plunder monsters. But it also it's important to have
I have one Jack on field with no counters, and you flip up Babble.
in the deck for this format where there's a lot of Dogmatica running around. It's nice to have 2 good monsters to send from Maximus. So this one just resets itself, and then this one can send anything else back into the deck, or even from their side of the field, or from their graveyard. And that's the deck.
Perfect. Thank you very much, man.